This is the Khoodeelaar television channel. Whatever the serial number says, this is being broadcast at starting approximately at 20:04 hours GMT, the same time 20:04 hours British Standard Time on Thursday, the 16th of January 2025. This one is going to continue our world exclusive original diagnostic analysis, world regional diagnostic analysis of the bias, the contents of what is known as Fleet Street, that is to say, the London based print newspapers, about the appearance in the mainstream news of the situation, the political situation in Bangladesh. It has been going on for the last, let's say, 2 calendar months or so, if not for longer. Bangladesh, in that way, has not featured before. The only reason why this is featuring in the mainstream British so-called political news is because of the inclusion in the British government administration until Tuesday this week of a 42-year-old described as a little madam by Rod Liddell in The Sun today, called Tulip Siddiq. And Tulip Siddiq has been described by others as the diminutive Tulip Siddiq. And photographs published from the election night of 4th of July 2024 of Tulip Siddiq standing next to Keir Starmer, looking upwards to him, illustrate the point very clearly, graphically, that she is indeed diminutive. But her physical diminutive stature is as nothing compared to the diminution of the ethical and moral standards expected of a holder of a constituency elected position as Member of Parliament, which she is, for a Camden Borough Council constituency for Parliament called Hampstead and Highgate. Next to her constituency is, of course, the King's Cross and St. Pancras constituency, associated for many years with the now deceased Frank Dobbo Dobson. Frank Dobbo Dobson was such an idiot, but he was described as being very intelligent in the entries on the Wikipedia about him. Such a stupid idiot that he had no hesitation in appearing in Tower Hamlets during the same calendar year, 2010, as in effect the guardian and political father of Abbasuddin Elias Halal. Now, Abbasuddin Elias Halal was sunk completely by a piece that was published in the Private Lie, Rotten Borough's page in October 2010. And the piece being headed, or was headed, Halal Dead Meat. Now, the halal dead meat to Private Lie was not only not dead meat, but the brightest star as far as Frank Dobson could see it. So while during the 3 months or so of the falsely projected No to the Mayor campaign, subscribed to by the lying Halal Uddin Elias Abbas or Abbas Uddin Elias Halal, Frank Dobson came to Tower Hamlets from Camden to say that the elected mayor post should not be imposed on Tower Hamlets. But while that was happening, Abbasuddin Elias Halal was actually secretly lying as he was approaching Labour Party members in Tower Hamlets, saying to them that they should vote for him to become the Labour Party's candidate for the post of mayor at the expense of the people of Tower Hamlets in 2010. When the referendum, so-called, held on the 6th of May 2010, produced a yes for the question, Abbasuddin Elias Halal came out in the open and he declared that he wanted to become the Labour Party's official candidate for the corrupt post of elected executive mayor at the expense of the people of Tower Hamlets and at the expense of democracy, accountability, transparency, etc., etc., etc. Just as he did. And Frank Dobson was again brought from Camden to Tower Hamlets to aid and abet the lying of Abbas Uddin Elias Halal. And Dobson had now had no difficulty in doing the about turn and saying that not only did he support the elected mayor position, but he wanted Abbasuddin Elias Halal to become the Labour Party's chosen candidate for the corrupt and corrupting post of elected mayor at the expense of democracy and at the expense of the demography, the political constituency of Tower Hamlets Borough. So Frank Dobson, after he passed away, was of course succeeded as Member of Parliament for that same constituency by Keir Starmer. And that constituency is next door to Highgate, Hampstead, and Highgate, which is occupied currently and has been since 2015 by Tulip Siddiq. Now, who is Tulip Siddiq? Tulip Siddiq, in addition to being diminutive, little madam, is biologically related to a person called Sheikh Hasina. Now, Sheikh Hasina was incumbent, corruptly, unethically, morally incumbent in the post of Prime Minister at the expense of the people of Bangladesh from 2008-9 until the 5th of August 2024. On the 5th of August 2024, Sheikh Hasina, according to most reports, took a helicopter flight as she fled the territory of Bangladesh and flew into Tripura, which is situated to the east of Bangladesh. The small state of Tripura in India, whose capital town is Agartala. The two words Agartala conspiracy featured very heavily in reports in the late 1960s, 68, 69, up to 70. of the operation of a Nagartala conspiracy by the supporters of what is wrongly called the independence movement, because constitutionally, legally, internationally, there was no independence movement. Because had there been an independence movement in any part of the then united or federal Pakistan, either East or West Pakistan, anyone identified as being connected with that independence movement, supposed independence movement, would be hanged. And the international legal platforms or regulators would have no real say in what domestically a so-called sovereign state did to those who wanted to sabotage the country's independence, sovereignty. So there was no declared independence movement, and it was not declared in public in Bangladesh by anyone in Bangladesh on the Bangladeshi soil, which was until the 16th of December 1971 known as East Pakistan. And on the 16th of December 1971, the then Prime Minister of India, the Republic of India, the daughter of Jawaharlal Nehru, the previous Prime Minister, and one of the leaders of the Indian National Congress, when the British, quote, withdrew from the subcontinent on the 14th and 15th of August 1947. So when Indira Gandhi led the assault, military assault on the then East Pakistan-based Pakistan Army operators, there was no way that the Pakistan Army operators could resist the military force that was more powerful, force of India that was more powerful than the Pakistan Army military force. So it was the decisive date, definitive date, when the state of Bangladesh was created by the intervention of Indira Nehru, military intervention of Indira Nehru. And the intervention was officially marked by the signature on the surrender document made by the Punjabi Pakistan Army General Wazir Niazi, a relation of Imran Khan. A.K. Niazi, Amir Abdullah Khan Niazi. When they conducted the surrender, neither Sheikh Mujib nor General Usmani was present, nor indeed was Maulana Abdul Hamid Khan Bashani present. So Bangladesh was created, according to Indian documents and records, still continuing to this day, today the 16th of January 2025. Bangladesh was created by the intervention of the Indian army against the Pakistan army that ended in the surrender, with the surrender of the Pakistan army fronted by the operation head, A.K. Niazi, Amir Abdullah Khan Niazi. Amir Abdullah Khan Niazi obviously turned out to have been hugely overstated in terms of his capabilities, military tactics, etc., etc., etc. Because if he hadn't been overstated, he would not have surrendered, would he? So coming back to today, 16th of January 2025, the Rupert Murdoch, Australian, of Scottish ancestry, Australian Rupert Murdoch owned Sun newspaper, which on the evidence qualifies to be called the scum. The Sun newspaper has one of the commentators, regular weekly commentators, called Rod Liddle. Now, Rod Liddle today writes a piece. His main piece in the Sun today is against Tulip Siddiq. I have not seen one single piece in the last 53 years in Britain, in Fleet Street Papers publications. I have not seen one single column like this, so completely dedicated against a Bangladeshi born. She is not born in Bangladesh. She was born in London of Bangladeshi parents, of course. Bangladeshi descended, Politico, with the venom that Rod Liddle reserves, the venom and the ridicule that Rod Liddle deserves, and dishes in the direction of Tulip Siddiq. Why? She is not a radical. She is not a Shamima Begum, of which later. She is the most comprehensive embodiment of the most corrupt country in the world. I summarize hereby what Rod Liddle has said in the Scum newspaper today in the column, 16th of January 2025, and I'll check if I can get access with my hand to the Rod Liddle piece. I think I have established contact with Rod Liddle, and let's see if I can place the little delicate camera on the piece focusing on Rod Liddle. This is the piece, and the insert photograph of Tulip Siddiq has got the caption, "Out Siddiq, Tulip Corruption Row." Look at the words, the sequence of the words. Tulip first, followed by corruption, followed by row. That is the main definitive part of the heading. Tells you all you need to know about Kiar and Company's view on sleaze. What he's saying is that Tulip Siddiq is an embodiment, personification of sleaze, that is corruption. And that corruption envelops, covers, and sinks Keir Starmer. Let's read a bit of it. You may not have heard of Tulip Siddiq until this week. Now, there follows a sentence that starts with the phrase, "this proper little madam." Now, those who are not familiar with the colloquial English, proper little madam is an expression of a highly self-important, self-promoting, self-interested, selfish woman who otherwise lacks substance but thinks she is more substantial than she actually is. And she goes around pushing other people. Now, this Tulip Siddiq did go around and pushed at least two members of the then Channel 4 News crew. One was Alex Thompson, at that time the most rigorous, active member of the Channel 4 News crew. That was in 2017, 2 years after Tulip Siddiq got into the British Parliament following her election for the first time in 2015. Now, Tulip Siddiq threatened Alex Thompson and his colleague, a pregnant colleague, and she made an offensive remark about the state of pregnancy of that woman, for which remark Tulip Siddiq was later forced to apologize to the woman. So the record of Tulip Siddiq is not a glorious one, not a dignified one, not a one that actually has vindicated her on a single thing that she has taken a stand on. Because the confrontation that she had with Alex Thompson and his fellow crews from the Channel 4 News in 2017 concerned a man who has only just recently been released from detention. Recently, meaning in August, after the flight out of Bangladesh by Sheikh Hasina, Tulip Siddiq's mother's elder sister. A British trained lawyer, that is the description in the media, who was detained in a secret location. And according to the family and loved ones and relations of that detained person, who was one of thousands similarly hidden by the Sheikh Hasina regime at the time, 2017. So the question that Alex Thompson put to Tulip Siddiq was, why hadn't she made a phone call to her aunt, Sheikh Hasina? Because the presumption underlying that question by Alex Thompson was that had Tulip Siddiq made such a call, that man, the British trained Bangladeshi lawyer, would have been released unharmed. To which question Tulip Siddiq took an exception. And she threatened and warned Alex Thompson and his crew colleagues not to confuse her as being anything to do with Bangladesh. She was defying the presumption that she had a very close access to the despot Sheikh Hasina. She was saying Tulip Siddiq was saying that Tulip Siddiq was a British member of parliament. And the way she said that must have been before Rod Little's observation, which added substance to his decision to call her a proper little madam. She was being imperious, although she was physically challenged as a diminutive individual as compared to the figures around her, who were all not diminutive as compared to her. And her personality is absolutely overwhelmingly of a morally diminutive person, morally corrupt individual. So, reading back again, this proper little madam, the Labour MP for Hampstead and Highgate, Natch, has not done much to distinguish herself in Parliament. A truer sentence has not been uttered about a member of Parliament. And despite the fact that Rod Liddell, who is a congenital racist liar, despite the fact that he is that, on this one, on the facts, he is accurate. I'm saying nothing more than that. He is accurate. The next paragraph, he says, but she, that is, Tulip Siddiq, is worth examining because Tulip represents all that is hypocritical about Labour. And Sakia, Starmer, they are good friends, don't you know? A champagne socialist up to her gills or jills in corruption allegations, but rewarded with ministerial office by a prime minister who has spent the past 4 years castigating the Tories for corruption. Siddiq is Bangladeshi by heritage. Bangladesh is one of the most corrupt countries on earth. Now, before reading this one, I had said in the previous edition of the Khoodeelaar television channel that Bangladesh was very corrupt. And one of the reasons why in the pre-Bangladesh East Pakistan, I never acceded to the request by all the political parties operating at that time. All of them wanted me as their member, one of their members. I never joined any political party, not because I didn't want to do political interventions, but I had no confidence in the moral status, the moral level of any of the parties. Awami League members wanted me to become an Awami League member, either Awami League or its so-called student wing member in the 1960s, early 1960s. And I rejected that. I rejected that not because I didn't recognize the Awami League as a political force, but I told them that they were a wing, an extension. They were an agency of the Hindu nationalist agenda being operated by the Indian regime. That time it was pre-Indira Nehru. I think it was still the time of Jawaharlal Nehru himself as Prime Minister. Regardless of the fact that he was Congress, and it was decades before the BJP fronted by Narendra Modi came to surface as political power. Despite the fact that the Congress and the BJP are different according to the pretensions of Congress, Indian Republic since the 15th of August 1947 has been operated, controlled, governed by forces that actually follow the agenda of Hindu majority Brahminism, which has now been converted into downright brazen Hindutva, personified by Narendra Modi. Back to Rod Liddell. Siddiq is Bangladeshi by heritage. Bangladesh is one of the most corrupt countries on earth. Now, usually, we wouldn't blame individuals for failures of the country from which they come. But with Tulip, it's a bit different. Her family basically is Bangladesh. That is a very big and accurate claim that Rod Liddell has made. Her family basically is Bangladesh. Her granddad founded the country. Now, that is an absolute stupid summary. Sheikh Mujib, who is Tulip Siddique's mother's father, maternal grandfather, did not found the country. He did become its first president, well, only just, because the first president was the previous vice chancellor of the University of Dhaka, Abu Said Chowdhury. Now, when I was at the university precincts during 1970-71, not always, but I was there because I had a residence there. I invited Abu Said Chowdhury to visit my room in Nilkhet. And when he entered my room at the University of Dhaka premises, Abu Said Chowdhury, the first president of Bangladesh, Sheikh Mujib was not the first president, it was Abu Said Chowdhury, expressed his astonishment at the size of my collection of books. My collection of books at the University of Dhaka precinct were one of hundreds of collections that I have made in my time. More about those collections later or another time, not in this edition. But Abu Said Chowdhury visited my room and said words to the effect that would otherwise be called praise for my collection and my scholarship. So, Rod Little is wrong to say that Sheikh Mujibur Rahman was the first president. He wasn't. It was Abu Said Chowdhury, and I have got first-hand information about that. So, back to Rod Little's column. Meanwhile, good old Auntie Hasina was the Prime Minister until August last year, that is 2024. Hasina led what opponents say is a hugely corrupt administration. Now, that is putting it mildly. Rod Little has got it wrong. Hasina was the fascist. She remains a fascist in her heart, in her mind. Hasina was corrupt to the core, and she was a fascist. Now, the staggeringly unbelievable thing is that despite the fact that she was a fascist, no leader of government leading Pakistan up to the 16th of December 1971 was anywhere nearly as ruthless and corrupt and bad as Sheikh Hasina was. Rod Little doesn't seem to have read the piece written this week by a Spectator writer who recalls having visited Bangladesh in 1996 and coming across Sheikh Hasina, whom he describes as the worst political leader in all of the subcontinent that he had met. That is more accurate than Rod Little's description of Sheikh Hasina. Sheikh Hasina led what opponents say is a hugely corrupt administration that is now being investigated. Auntie Hasina is also accused of enormous human rights abuses against her political opponents, of which there were millions. Some 300 people were killed because they dared to protest about their appalling government. That's lie. Hundreds of thousands of people have been massacred by Sheikh Hasina. But the British media don't acknowledge that. And the reason why the British media has been in denial about what has been happening in Bangladesh is to do with the corruption linked with the Labour Party in Britain. So, what did Tulip think of this? That is, the murders and hiding thousands of people being injured during the protests. He says, so what did Tulip think of this? Liddell says, she stuck up for her aunt through thick and thin. That means that she did back Sheikh Hasina, no matter how grotesque her crimes were against humanity. Tulip Siddiq, says Rod Little, said that Sheikh Hasina was a strong female role model. Tulip rents a 2.1 million house from the deeply corrupt political party of which her aunt was boss. And now she has been accused by Bangladesh's Anti-Corruption Commission of being involved in some of that chicanery I mentioned, that is, Rod Little mentioned. So, for example, the country did a big nuclear deal with Russia, and somehow 4 million quid went missing somewhere. Now, Rod Little is a moron. It's not 4 million, you shitbag. It is 4 billion at least. How can million represent billion? Nobody is checking the accuracy or context or whatever in the scum. But I point this out because this is not the only mistake by the so-called names in the British media. Abul Tahir, who has disclosed only yesterday in the Daily Mail that he is of Bangladeshi origin, likes Tulip Siddiq, refers to the year 2025 as being this year, which is actually something he's referring to in 2024. And there are other serious factual errors committed by all the British journalists and media, etc., etc. And their most, well, the type of the Guardian sources is, of course, epitomized by David Bergman. Bergman is married to Kamal Hussein's lawyer daughter, Sarah Hussein. That is the entry to Bergman being kind of presented as an almost Bangladeshi, in which way he can do the agenda of spying on the people of Bangladesh. And it's only because David Bergman is a white man from the United Kingdom that the British media really refer to him in their dispatches that they've been publishing since the ouster of Sheikh Hasina in August 2024. And now she, that is Sheikh Hasina, been accused by Bangladesh's Anti-Corruption Commission of being involved in some of that chicanery I mentioned. So, for example, the country did a big nuclear deal with Russia, and somehow 4 million quid went missing. It's 4 billion quid, you moron. Beaming fit to burst. Easy to miss, 4 million quid in it. Well, easy to miss state 4 million as being the equivalent of 4 billion quid in it, you moron. The commission, that is the Bangladesh Anti-Corruption Commission, well, the Bangladesh Anti-Corruption Commission was itself performing corrupt roles during Hasina's reign. It was during her reign that Bangladesh Anti-Corruption Commission was itself confected, set up. And it didn't expose any of her murders, massacres, looting, thefts. So they have no shame whatsoever, those Bangladesh Anti-Corruption League Commission ones. So easy to miss 4 million quid in it. The commission would really like a word with her about that for starters. Tulip was there, that is in Bangladesh, with Antias, the Bangladesh team that was photographed in 2013 with the Russian President Vladimir Putin in Moscow, in the Kremlin actually. Tulip was there, that is in Moscow, with Auntie Hasina. As the deal was struck with the Ruskies, beaming fit to burst, she was. Beaming fit to burst, she was. Meaning she was so pleased with herself that she would have burst with the self-importance and narcissistic over sense of achievement. The investigation, now I'll read that again because I misread that word. The investigators also have one or two problems about some parcels of land which the commission alleges she illegally allocated to her mom and siblings. That is, she illegally allocated, meaning Tulip Siddiq. Given this background, a lot of which was known about for a while, wouldn't you think the new morally irreproachable Labour Party would have second thoughts about making her a party candidate, never mind giving her a ministerial job? So reading that again, the commission, the Anti-Corruption Commission of Bangladesh, the commission would really like a word with her about that for starters. Tulip was there with Auntie Hasina as the deal was struck with Ruskies. Ruskies meaning is a colloquial word for colloquial and pejorative word for Russia. Ruskies. Beaming fit to burst, she was. The investigators also have one or two problems about some parcels of land which the Anti-Corruption Commissioner alleges Tulip Siddiq illegally allocated to her mom, Rehana, and her siblings, including her younger sister Azmina, who mysteriously is now described as having been a member of staff in the Tony Blair Institution or Foundation. What was the attraction of Azmina to the adulterous Tony Blair? Given this background, a lot of which was known about for a while, wouldn't you think the new morally irreproachable Labour Party would have second thoughts about making her, that is Tulip Siddiq, a party candidate, never mind giving her a ministerial job? Me too, that is, Rod Liddell presumes the readers agree with him, and he emphasizes that. But Sarkea sticks by his friends, no matter what allegations of corruption are made against them. It's not just corruption, you moron. She actually condoned Sheikh Hasina's murderous activities as well as corruption. And what sort of role did she give her? Yep, you guessed it. Sheikh Hasina gave Tulip Siddiq the responsibility for rooting out corruption in the economy. Now, that is a reference to Keir Starmer. So I'll read that paragraph correctly. And what sort of role did he give Tulip? Yep, you guessed it. Tulip had responsibility for rooting out corruption in the British economy. And Starmer resisted all calls to sack her. Tulip Siddiq, who denies wrongdoing, has now resigned her ministerial job, telling Starmer she didn't want to become a distraction from the work of government. But doesn't it tell you all you need to know about Labour and Sakia? Do you remember Starmer ranting about the sleaze and corruption of the Conservatives? How a vote for Labour would be a vote for honesty in government? I agreed with him at the time. And forgive me, it didn't occur what Starmer and company might be even worse once they got legs under desks. But just look at Tulip and marvel. Now, Rod Liddell, of course, is a racist, and I shall be elaborating on his racism and stupidity. But before doing that, I should add a note here about his time at the BBC. He was the editor of the BBC Radio's Today program during the period of the Iraq, just before the period of the crisis about Tony Blair invading Iraq and the revelation about David Kelly, the arms inspector from Britain, was identified by Andrew Gilligan. And Andrew Gilligan was then accused of having exposed David Kelly to the murder that most believe he was subjected to. Although the Blair fronted regime said that David Kelly committed suicide. Absolute rubbish. So Rod Kelly, by that time out of the BBC, stood up for Andrew Gilligan and said that Andrew Gilligan was, according to him, a rigorous and honest journalist. We shall be talking about all of those in due course, more in later editions. This is now ending just under 50 minutes on Thursday. Well, it's 20:54 hours GMT, 20:54 hours British Standard Time, and it's ending just under 50 minutes.